Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 6 of Behind the Magic. I'm Dylan.
I'm Eric. This is Erik Tait, our new guest. Let's
Hello,
welcome him
everybody.
in.
Thanks for having me.
What's up? What's up? Thank you for coming on. It's a great deal. All right, Dylan, you could start off.
All right, so there's a few topics I want to talk about today with you, Eric. Now, I've called with you in the past,
Mhm.
but that was before I really had the podcast up and going. But now that we're a lot more set up and prepared now, we can get this recording up and live so everyone can hear it. So I want to start off with FISM. Please tell us how you start from FISM, the experience and the journey, and how it all happened.
I mean, that's a big question. It started at 4F. I never really intended to go compete at FISM. After I won the IBM, I thought I was pretty well done. And sort of, when you win an award like the IBM close-up competition, which there's a lot of people headed in July to go compete, which I'm very excited about. You kind of end up being married to that routine for sort of the rest of your life because it's the IBM award is pretty big. And so I got invited to the 4F convention, and I did the Monty at 4F, and a woman named Joan Caesar, who sort of founded the Canadian Association of Magicians, CAM, and she's been a FISM rep for North America for a number of years, kind of found me and was like, hey, that's a really nice FISM routine you have. You should go compete in Quebec. And I was like, I'd never really considered it before, because to me, FISM was always something that like big, giant, like, legends of the industry do. It wasn't, some nerd who sits in the corner and just, does move monkey stuff like me. So she sort of talked to me about it, and I was like, well, I'll give it a shot. And so the idea was always to participate. It wasn't necessarily to win. It was because I sort of in the back of my head the entire time was like, oh, this will be like a fun experience. I can say I did it, and some 14-year-old Dutch kid that no one's ever heard of is going to win everything anyway. So it was a real honor to win a prize, and then to subsequently find out how long it had been since an American won a prize in card magic.
Wow.
And so it was just, there was a lot of like, big emotions afterwards. And it was kind of wild. So it's still hard to process, because I still just feel like me. I think the major difference is the trophy lives on my desk inside my computer. I build custom PCs, and you can see a picture of it on Instagram. I should probably upload a new picture since I redid all the lighting recently. But I have this big glass computer case that the trophy lives in, and so anytime you've like listened to or watched a Penguin product since FISM, that computer renders a lot of our stuff. So so your Penguin products are being rendered by a FISM trophy. It was sort of the joke we kind of have. It was just a silly way to display it, which was a lot of fun. I don't really keep it on a mantle or anything like that, so it's just kind of always there. And then I've got this like certificate that's just sort of in the back that they gave me that my partner framed for me in a big fancy frame. But it's kind of hard to wrap your head around and explain what that experience is like. I think probably the thing that I worked on the most in getting ready for FISM was sort of the mental game, which is what I'm helping a lot of competitors with now. If you talk to any professional athlete, you'll find out that the preparation they go through for matches is not just physical preparation. It's also mental training to like get them in the mood. I was reading an article about how during the pandemic, when they were trying to do the bubble league for the NBA, that we were seeing like really breakout players who'd always like performed well, but hadn't like really done, weren't like really outstanding, and suddenly they were, and it was because they didn't have the crowd putting all that pressure on them, so they were able to perform like much better than they usually did. And so I see a therapist for depression and anxiety, and she worked with me to study some sports psychology to get me ready to go to FISM, because normally like if you put me in front of like a lay audience, like I'll go out there and crush it. It'll be I'm like very confident in my performing abilities, but in front of magicians, I get really nervous. I get the shakes really bad.
Yeah.
And so we just worked a lot on trying to get rid of those, just trying to get rid of like those things and like trying to like overcome those mental hurdles, which are just mental hurdles. And so now I'm like working with competitors who in North America who want to sort of go on to much larger competitions and trying to help get them ready. And so that's kind of in a nutshell is just what it is. I mean, there's lots of like little stories that have come up, on my podcast and other people's podcasts, but those are like, I mean, that's sort of the highlight reel. So it's still hard to process. So.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. All right. Your fullest act, which is also the money.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
No, you go.
No, so it is that like from the outside they look the same, but they actually work very differently. I think probably the biggest change was when I qualified for FISM North America, another a FISM winner who shall remain nameless kind of took me aside and pointed out some big flaws in the routine, and they said you got to get your hands out of your lap. And so 6 months before I went to FISM to compete, I completely changed the way the act worked into method wise, so that if you watch the two videos side by side, my hands never go below the table in the version that I took to Quebec. And so it was very different, but kind of after the Fool Us and the IBM, I thought I was done with that act, and I was wrong. So, but Fool Us was a great experience. I had a really good time.
Yes. Okay, so let's see. Any funny or like weird interview things that has happened in the past?
Oh, like with the podcast?
Yeah.
It's funny. When I started the Penguin Magic podcast, I sort of went to the top brass at Penguin and was like, we have all this like downtime with these artists and some great conversations that are being had. We should turn that into content for our customers. And they were super excited about that. And part of it was also because as a video editor, because I do edit videos for Penguin, audio was my weakest area, and so I thought if I did the podcast that it would make me a stronger audio editor. It was sort of a way to like balance my skills a little bit. And the early ones, I had no idea what I was doing. I had very, very little direction, and I'm very fortunate that Penguin is like really cool with me just sort of run the podcast however I do. They give me guidance in different directions every now and then to make it better, but it's always like with an eye towards like giving me, quote unquote journalistic independence. They never tell me like, oh, I've got to interview this person or like I have to go ask these questions. It's always like very much like up to me and whatever I do. But I think some of the funniest things that have like happened were, I mean, because I don't really cut anything out of the show. Like Penguin produces a phenomenal amount of content every week. I mean, like I know the deadlines that I'm up against this week, and I'm like, oh, how am I gonna have enough days in the week to get it all done? And so I tell people straight up that I'm not going to edit this apart from EQing it a little bit. And so if they don't want me to ask them anything, don't. Or tell me what it is so I can just avoid the topic, because I'm not really here for gotcha interviews. That's not what I'm interested in. But when we were having people back into the studio sort of in COVID, we were taking extraordinary measures to make sure that our artists were safe and our staff was safe. And the result of that was being in a room with someone separated by like giant heavy curtains and and like I know that they're there because like 2 minutes ago I saw them, like we were all masked and had PPE on and everything, and people were getting like tested and on a regular basis to make sure that no one was COVID positive, and knock on wood, thank goodness we didn't have any issues, but just like interviewing people that I normally could look them in the eye, because for a long time I didn't do interviews over the internet because I wanted them to sound really good. So interviewing people in the same room that I couldn't listen to was very strange, and just it took a lot of like time to learn how to like not talk over people when I couldn't see them, because I'd think someone was winding down, but I didn't get any of the physical cues. But But I mean, being in hotel rooms and like recording podcasts on the road with people, I interviewed Chris Kenner in his office backstage at David Copperfield's theater, which was crazy. Lance Burton came to a makeshift studio that I made and did that. Getting surprised by Matt King, bulldozing me in various interviews where like I was doing like the Desert Island Magic book and he hit me with like 5 books.
Yeah,
being able to cover the rise and in the careers of my friends like Lucy Darling, Carissa Hendricks has been really cool. And then being able to sort of expose the Magic community to people that they should know about, like Alex Hilscher or Meadow Perry, is really awesome. So I don't think that there's any like hilarious stories because you just sort of hear everything on there. There's very little that you don't. That I don't share with my audience.
Okay. That's nice to hear. Let's see.
Yeah, I was gonna say funny gig stories.
Oh,
funniest gig story.
Funniest gig stories. Ooh.
Yeah.
Man, some wild stuff has happened to me over the years. I'm very
Give us something
lucky.
crazy. Yeah. Give us something just give us something that will get us views.
Drunk person moment.
Yeah,
there's been like, I think the stuff that always like stands out in my mind is never stuff that's like funny, haha. It's like funny, good Lord, no. When I'm like discovering that I'm like performing in I'm not even going to tell that story at all. Just showing up to gigs and like I always, the ones that always stick out in my mind are like places where I was like promised like a stage and a microphone, and I get there and it's like there's a podium and then the microphone is like on like a gooseneck stand, or
oh no.
I one time, I don't know how this happened, but I got booked to do like an after prom party where it was like a lock-in at the high school. And so the gig didn't start till midnight and I was booked until 2 a.m. and then I had like a 3-hour drive home. So that was just like pretty crazy. Or it was just like super late. But like, getting to perform at the Magic Castle with, my best friend, Nick Lacapo, it was really cool. And then like getting to perform with him at the Chicago Magic Lounge was also really neat. Being on some of these like man, lecturing at Blackpool was crazy because I didn't realize how big the room they had me was going to be in. And I walk in and there was 1,200 people in this auditorium and they were turning people away, which was pretty wild. There's just a lot of weird stuff. I mean, there's also like everything that has gone wrong with my show could have gone wrong. So I just keep like, I don't want to say nothing phases me because getting on stage is nerve-wracking every time because I fundamentally do a comedy act and comedy is very brittle. If they're not into it, like the show is not going to go well. But I've just had so many
musician, so I understand.
Yeah, it's so nerve-wracking every time where I'm like, you just like the same stuff I'm going to do in Utah might not work in, San Diego or Colorado or Erie, Pennsylvania. I mean, I have some huge shows coming up. I'm going to be in Erie, Pennsylvania in a few weeks, opening for TJ Miller. He was the bartender from Deadpool. And then in a few months, I'll be opening for Bobcat Goldthwait.
Oh, yes.
So, like, that's kind of wild. Just, I don't know, the shows get bigger and the audiences get larger and the people get more well-known coming to see me. And it's all just, I come home and play video games at night, just like everybody else. So it's
yeah.
Very
don't
wild.
You have a Twitch? Don't you?
I do. I haven't streamed on Twitch in a while. I used to stream on a regular basis, but then I got busy, and it's hard to stream when I'm on the road, and I've been on the road a lot. So, and I've got a lot of secret projects I'm working on for Penguin that people don't really know about that I can't talk about, but that have kept me pretty busy. So,
okay. All right. I want to see your Penguin. Speaking of Penguin Magic, okay. So I'm a huge fan of Penguin Magic.
Yeah.
I haven't really bought anything from Penguin.
I bought heaps of Penguin Magic. It's my number one. Like, if you got my emails, it's just all Penguin Magic receipts. Nice.
Excellent. The
I
bank
watch
my
I
house
watch a lot of
appreciates that.
Penguin Magic videos.
Oh,
But
good.
okay.
Same, yeah.
So what is like something that are they creating anything for like younger magicians, or are they it's
Um,
just
so I can't really divulge too much. What I can
okay, no
tell you
problem.
is that there's a couple of new web
Yeah,
series that
that's good.
on YouTube that Nick Lacapo and I have been working on. That we're trying to get just right. But that will be some new content that we think will appeal to a lot of magicians around the world. Um, and it'd be different than like the normal products that we work on. Um,
Okay.
we're always interested in meeting young magicians, and that's part of the reason like I do the card jam is because I know that a lot of people are like, they learn their magic on like YouTube and Instagram.
Yeah.
And so being able to sort of like teach in that way and talk to a younger generation is a lot of fun. um, I'm very interested in passing on the knowledge that I've gained from people who were so gracious to teach me the stuff that I have learned. And so I think like teaching is sort of the main thing that I really like doing at Penguin, and I'm very fortunate that I get to do it. So there's some new web series that'll be out on YouTube in the coming weeks and months. Um, the podcast is still going strong. Hopefully, we'll be back to doing some top tens really soon. On the
Okay.
YouTube channel, and then some unboxings. I know we've put out a lot of products, and Nick and I need to
Oh,
Nick and I tend to
yes.
batch film a
Finally.
lot of stuff, and so we need to do some unboxings. But Nick and I have both been on the road and busy, and everyone wants our attention. So we're just very lucky, and we're working on getting some really cool stuff ready for you guys. I think the next couple of months are going to be very exciting for people to see
Okay.
what comes out of Penguin.
Let's see.
Oh, wow.
What
Can
is
you,
something?
can you tell us how you got into Penguin? How you like
It's true.
joined in with Penguin Magic? Can you give us
Yeah.
like how you got involved with Penguin Magic and how it all began?
So I think everyone who has got involved with Penguin over the years, or at least the people that I know there, it's been very happy accidents. I think that the assumption is that I'm just a very good magician, and that's why Penguin wanted me on staff. And while I appreciate that thought, the real reason Penguin wanted me on staff is because I'm good with a camera and I'm good at video editing. Um,
Okay.
being a
Yep.
magician is important to that kind of thing because I'm less misdirected by a magician when I'm trying to film them. So like it's funny when you have somebody, I can always tell when something was shot by someone who was not a magician because the camera moves in ways that I wouldn't move it. But long before I joined Penguin, I was producing and editing and directing weird comedy videos with my friends. I was doing a lot of wildlife photography. I'm very into tech and gear, so I'm like one of the gear nerds. Whenever we like rebuild the studio, myself and this other guy, our technical director Nate, we love just digging in the computers and rewiring things and setting lights up. And so, as passionate as I am about magic, I'm equally as passionate about content creation and making it look good. I mean, like you're sitting here talking
Oh,
to me,
wow.
and like I've got different lights and stuff here on just like my personal setup at home that I just because I anytime I want
Yeah,
to be on
looks
something.
good. Looks good.
So that's kind of it. I mean, so I was living in Columbus, which is where the production studios of Penguin are, and they
Yep.
lost a video editor and lost a camera operator. They knew that I was a magician. They knew that I was interested in that stuff, and so I had a meeting with them, and I got the job offer. It very much has everything to do with the fact that I know cameras and editing and not my magic pedigree. So and that's most of the people who've gotten the jobs there over the years. So
Okay.
yeah. And I think that's probably the same for any magic company. People think like, oh, I want to go work for a magic company. Well, if you want to work for a magic company, you have to think about like what the company does. And what the company does is like make content and sell props.
Yeah.
So like, how can you be involved in that? So like, we have some very talented people who are involved in our manufacturing portion because so much of our products are made in the United States by a magician. And so we've got a very talented group of gimmick builders who are all super passionate about building stuff. And they're, making all kinds of great stuff. There's a lot of different ways you can work for a magic company. And so finding out like, the business of the company and what the company needs is the better way in, not just being passionate about Magic.
Okay. Another Penguin Magic question,
Yeah.
which probably you could probably answer.
Mm-hmm.
What is the biggest drawback or mistake that they've made in the past?
What's the biggest mistake that they've made in the past?
Yeah, like they had to draw everything back.
I don't know the answer to that. I've been with Penguin for about 4 or 5 years now, and one of the things that I have noticed about Penguin is that, I mean, of course we make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes.
Yeah.
But I do like to think that we don't make the same mistake twice. At least since I've been there, there have been times where we looked at stuff and went, oh, why do we do it this way? Right. And it's like when you look at the decision-making process that leads up to it, you go, oh, of course, this is why we did this way. But then when you look at it in hindsight, you're like, oh, this would have been so much better if we'd done it this way instead. And I think we're very good at looking at what we did in the past that was a mistake and not duplicating that mistake. And I think that if you look at the products in the last 3 or 4 years, that is really apparent how the packaging has gotten better, the tutorials have gotten better, the demos have gotten more interesting, and just we're always trying to outdo ourselves with stuff and how could we make this better, how can we strive for excellence. And so can I point to any one big mistake? No. But I can point to a bunch of small mistakes that we also acknowledge our mistakes and then also show you where we didn't make that same mistake going forward because we learned from it. And oftentimes we correct those mistakes too. So.
Nice. Okay. Dylan, any questions?
Yeah, I was gonna say, because I know that you're into comedy as well, and I've mentioned this a few times.
Yeah.
Can you talk about how comedy goes with Magic? Are they separate? Do you put them together? How is those? Yeah.
So I would recommend anybody who is interested in doing comedy magic pay attention to David Acker. I think he's probably one of the more brilliant comedy magicians out there, and he's also a brilliant comedy magic philosophy thinker. I saw him lecture once, and he said something to the effect of, comedy is fundamentally about telling a truth and magic is fundamentally about telling a lie. And so doing those two things together is very difficult to do. And I think I even mentioned that on Fool Us, but my full quote got truncated because I think I tried to mention him, but neither here nor there. But I think that is really true. And I've heard Jay Sankey say similar things. Jay Sankey he's got a book on comedy, and he talks about comedy magic in some of his DVDs and lectures. And he talks about trying to do it's very difficult to get a laugh moment when you're trying to get a miracle. And so I often use comedy as misdirection and world building. But I don't, whenever I'm actually going for the effect, then the comedy has to go away because if I want the magic to be strong, the comedy can't get in the way of the magic. Occasionally you'll see it with, there's a couple of things I do where I'll use comedy to sort of deflate the audience's, not necessarily expectations, but they're expecting something to get amazing to happen. And so then I'll use the comedy to sort of reduce that. And so when I do hit them with the magic moment, the surprise is much larger. And so the reaction is much stronger. If you've ever seen me do card to pocket, which not many people have, because I think it's only really appeared in my live shows. I haven't published my work on it. My card to pocket is a prime example of, there's a lot of moments that are funny and silly. But then when the signed card appears back in my pocket under impossible conditions, using the comedy to sort of bring everything down so that the expectation, so it can be so much more of a surprise, is something that I've done a lot. And so these days it's just when they're creating new material is looking for things I can write, looking for things that really attract me, looking for things that I can a routine type that I really want to do, but also that I can talk about something that deeply interests me. I often will default to very meta stuff. I mean, talking about being a magician or being an award winner. I mention to the audience frequently that I'm famous, which is inherently ridiculous because if you are famous, you shouldn't have to talk about it. but like I am well known, but like in certain spheres, you know, like I go to a magic convention and everyone knows who I am, but like if I go to the grocery store, no one knows who I am. So it's a strange sort of thing to approach and talk about. But I'm also like, you know, deeply into internet conspiracy theories and ridiculous stuff like that. Not because I believe any of them. I just think that the ideas are hilarious. And so I'll often like use stuff like that as like a jumping off point for some of my more like workhorse stuff.
Yeah,
Nice. Yeah, that answers it. That answers it.
Like for my comedy magic, normally when I talk, I'm more so my talking is misdirecting, so I can get to whatever like card to pocket or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And it's like it's just because I'm hitting them so fast with jokes, right?
Yeah.
And I'm kind of misleading them with a step that I just did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's perfect for what I mean. Comedy is perfect for misdirection. People stop thinking.
Yeah.
Their brain turns off when they laugh.
Yeah.
So you can get away with like some pretty crazy stuff.
Right now, I'm learning about like how the mind works. So I'm doing like a bunch of mentalism stuff.
Yeah.
Like marked cards, right? And then also doing hypnosis, meaning be able to touch them without touching them.
Yeah.
On camera.
Yeah.
So it's great.
Cool.
Yeah.
Oh wow. I was gonna mention now that so everyone knows Erik Tait for Pig and Magic Podcast. Well, it's one of his bigger things. You should know that. And we all know that Erik has interviewed a countless amount of magicians, asking them a question: what are your top 5 magic tricks in under 5 minutes? So we're gonna ask Erik that. Erik, what are your top 5 magic tricks in under 5 minutes? That's right. We're twisting the tables, turning the tables. The tables are turned. There we go.
Number 5 has got to be Ultra Lucky Coin because I want more people to buy it.
Yeah, your trick. Yep.
Love Ultra Lucky Coin. The ambitious card that I do is number 4. I've published that once. I talked about it at the Tricks convention. I talked about it in Blackpool as well. I teach it in a lecture now, but it's really more as like a demonstration for doing stuff because the ambitious card that's involved has a different colored back from the rest of the deck, which is fun.
Ooh, you even talked about it in your live stream one time.
I think I did. Yeah. I don't think I performed it though.
Yeah,
but
you
it's
did.
Again, it's one of those things.
I was kind of sad.
Oh, I did. Okay. So the number 3 has got to be Flight 101 by Roddy McGee. I think a lot of people slept on that trick, and it's super powerful. Borrowed ring to borrowed spectators' keys.
Yeah.
I never go to a gig without it. It's pretty awesome. Number 2 has got to be Coin 1 by Homer Leewag. It's a Coins Across DVD that is since gone out of print. But the Coins Across formed the basis of the Coins Across that I do now. So actually, I perform at this restaurant in Columbus every Saturday and Sunday called Town Hall, and I'm there during the brunch, or I'm like supposed to be like working on like new material, and I do my Coins Across there a lot, and sometimes I'll swap in Homer Leewags just for fun, and then number 1, man,
Which magician published that?
Coin 1 is by Homer Leewag. He's a illusion designer and artist who works for David Copperfield.
Nice.
It's really good if you can get a hold of it. Number 1 has got to be Nick the Duck right now. It's my work on the Dippy Duck, the card duck routine, but mine like smokes a cigarette and it's got prison tattoos, and it is like 9 minutes of my show right now.
Wow.
That people are like, yeah, I turn a card. The card duck is like a 9-minute thing for me, and it's a huge part of my show. And
the smoking duck, and
it's like it really is it has become a very strong piece of like comedy magic for me, and all it is the card duck, like, card gets selected, lost in the deck, and then the duck finds it. But it's the road it takes to get there. You know, but there's a lot of tricks I love. I mean, like, you know, you can't keep me to 5 because like I'm constantly like working on new tricks for Penguin. And like, you know, not too long ago, I learned, actually, I think the video went up yesterday. I learned CBS by Paul Vigil, and that is a phenomenal coin trick. That's a super good one. Laced Up by Donovan Mount is awesome.
Oh yes,
you know,
the video good.
It's so good.
That is incredible.
I've done it like I've done it hundreds of times because I pitched it at Blackpool. But Black Door by Riccardo Berdini is something that I keep in my case because it solves a lot of problems if I need to. And then the Awakening by Dan Harlan is something I include in a lot of shows because it's so good.
Oh
so,
yes. Professor's Nightmare.
Yeah, there's lots of really good tricks. It's an unfair question that I ask, and the only reason I really ask it is to give creators a chance to promote their products on our show in like a tasteful way, and to talk about the tricks because I'd rather talk about other things with them. But yeah, it's an unfair question. Like trying to get anyone to like name their top 5 tricks is like it's cruel. So and that's why I do it. So
all right, last question.
Well,
okay,
yep, that's right.
Last question. What is your favorite deck for right now? Your go-to deck of cards.
My go-to deck of cards is the Penguin Mark deck.
Nice.
I've got probably 2 dozen of them in a closet right now, and you know, $5 for a deck of Mark cards that is traditionally cut on thin crushed stock with there's one of them right there.
Yep. I have a deck too.
I got so many of those things, and I use them for everything. It's, you know, there's a lot of really killer designer decks out there, but the Penguin Maidenback Mark cards, those are my favorites. Those are my go-to. That lives in my pocket all the time.
Yeah, highly recommend these. These are so good.
Yes,
it's like, and also since it's like standard, because like laymen, if they recognize bicycle, they're gonna think these are rider backs because they're not.
And I used them
also the marking system.
I used them on Fool Us and no one noticed.
You did.
So it's
I noticed.
Yeah. Those are my go-tos.
I did notice that. Did you actually need them?
No, I didn't. I was proving a point.
I was gonna say. I didn't think you. Yeah.
I was trying to win an argument with somebody.
Oh, okay. All right. So we're about out of time, but thank you, Erik, for so much.
Thank you so much.
And hang out with us.
Thanks for having me on.
This will be up on YouTube. And I'll link Erik's socials and everything. Go check out Penguin Magic. Thank you so much, guys, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.